disruptive.
America that I fought for.
Weird thing to happen. You've seen countlessly the interview that has gone viral numerous times, making the memes, making the rounds of just comedy all over the place. And luckily, Gen X girl here did a little breakdown of that interview saying, all right, you've watched Tucker Carlson's takedown of Tel Aviv Ted, Senator Ted Cruz. Now you can watch a portion with receipts. So she did a great job aligning this interview and being able to also find documents, publications, reports, whatnot, to counteract everything that lying Ted Cruz saying right to Tucker Carlson's face, even though Tucker Carlson is no idiot. Tucker Carlson, despite some things that I can criticize about him for his endless promotion, saying that he still supports Israel no matter what. Just how horrendous this interview was, coming from a senator sitting on the Foreign Affairs Committee. This is a guy responsible for making sure America is safe, and yet selling you out completely at every point in turn. And here's just a breakdown of some of this. Take a look.
All right, let's stop. You said the support for Israel very expensive. How much support do we give to Israel?
Well, you tell me. You vote for it.
Yeah, it's about $3 billion a year is the military assistance.
Mm-hmm. Is that the only assistance?
Yeah, we just have military assistance. Israel does not have additional assistance. There's an MOU, a memorandum of understanding, and it's $3 billion a year.
So what is it costing to support the bombing campaign to protect Israel right now from Iran?
So I don't know right now, but I'll tell you this. Let's go back to the touchstone on foreign policy. American interest. Our support, our military support for Israel is massively in America's national security interest, and it benefits us enormously.
Well, before we can make independent judgments about whether or not that's true, and I'm certainly open to it, I think we need to know what it costs. So what's the annual cost of defending Israel? Do you know?
$3 billion a year.
No, that's the aid. But I mean, the cost of the weapons, for example, the cost of U.S. personnel there, the cost of moving ships to the region, which we're doing right now, the cost of moving tankers to the region, all of that. Do we know what the cost is?
So look, the last week, I don't know. And there's some lag when the administration, under the Constitution, the commander-in-chief has control of the armed forces. And so President Trump has made some decisions that we'll know the cost over time. But I don't know the last week. That I don't have visibility on that. The annual cost is $3 billion. It's a 10-year memorandum of understanding. And that's the principal driver of the cost. But let me make a point. We get massive benefits from Israel. Israel shares the Mossad is one of the best intelligence sources on the planet. The enemies of Israel, the people who hate Israel, they all hate us. It's almost a perfect overlap. And so if we tried to recreate, if we're just trying to defend America, we tried to recreate the national security benefits of our alliance with Israel, it would cost, I don't know, $30 billion, $300 billion.
So can you elaborate? And again, I'm going into this as someone who's always liked Israel and still does. But I also think at this point, given where we are, it's fair to ask rational questions about what the benefits are.
Good.
So does Mossad share all of its intelligence with us?
Oh, probably not, but they share a lot. We don't share all of our intelligence with them, but we share a lot. It's a close alliance.
Do they spy domestically in the United States?
Oh, they probably do, and we do as well. And friends and allies spy on each other. And I assume all of our allies spy on us.
That's okay with you?
You know what? One of the things about being a conservative is that you're not naive and utopian. You don't think humans are all... Part of the reason socialism doesn't work is the mantra from each according to his abilities to each according to his needs doesn't work. As a conservative, I assume people act in their rational self-interest.
So it's conservative to pay people to spy on you?
It's conservative to recognize that human beings act in their own self-interest, and every one of our friends spies on us, and I'm not...
Do you like it? That's my question. I'm not asking whether they have motive to do it. Of course they do. I understand that. And by the way, I'm not mad at them. But you're an American lawmaker, so I just want to know, hold on, I want to know your attitude. Yeah. You said that your guiding principle, in fact, the only principle, the only criterion...
I said guiding, the overwhelming, I wouldn't say only.
Is it in America's interest? Is it in America's interest for Israel to spy on us, including on the president?
It is in America's interest to be closely allied with Israel because we get huge benefits for it. And you want to see the clear...
But I just want to stop on this line for a second. That it takes place...
But that's not the question. The question is it okay for them to spy on America, including American presidents, including American institutions? Doesn't that put national security at a threat, exposing yourself to our greatest ally? Like, oh my God, the insanity that just spews out of people's mouths, the complete lack of self-awareness, the fact that this guy is responsible for the Foreign Affairs Committee, keeping you safe. And he doesn't know how much it's costing us to defend said nation of Israel. He doesn't understand how mass surveillance from our greatest ally, how we're not trading off intelligence, how Israel is purposely surveilling on Americans to spy and then blackmail, using that information, manipulate Americans to do their bidding. Like, how's this making you safer? How's this making you safer? But I can go on and on because this is a fairly lengthy interview that Tucker Carlson put together. And again, I don't have, I'm not, 100% approve of Tucker Carlson. There's a lot of flaws that I can point at him for. One of them being that he even did state there that, yeah, I'm still supportive of Israel, but I'm still going to critique them. Well, if you're critiquing them and you think it's wrong that Israel is spying on Americans and it's our threat to national security that we're assisting them, then why would you say you're supportive of this nation? Why would you still do that? Oh, because you are also captured the same way Ted Cruz is captured, the same way all other people are captured. They feel it's their obligation. They have to say it. Otherwise, they might turn into Michael Rappaport, where they don't have a career because of, all the Arabs that control Hollywood. That's the problem. That's the problem. Once they get ahead, things are going to change. But the reason I bring this to attention is because after that interview and after word gets out and, correcting the wrongs and actually exposing the horrendousness of politicians, there's a bit of an influencer battle. Or should I say influencer / commentator battle. So, Shattering Hegemony says, Israel advocate Laura Loomer has accused Tucker Carlson of being controlled by Muslims. Why? Because God forbid Tucker Carlson took the act of journalism and critiqued things that Ted Cruz was spewing out of his mouth. That he was critiquing, that he was asking questions, which is what normal journalists, normal curious people would be doing on the regular. But Laura Loomer, who Tucker Carlson once, applauded and thanked for being an outside independent reporter, is doing the dirty work of advertising for the Mossad, for the Israeli campaign, and calling out people like Tucker Carlson, also Ian Carrol, and also so many, and Candace Owens, for making accurate criticisms of this nation, the supposed great ally that's stealing your data, manipulating, blackmailing you, scolding you, buying out politicians, changing course, changing foreign affairs to go bomb and detonate countries that have nothing to do with us. But primarily, I guess they're, our enemies because they're enemies of Israel, and we share the same enemies for some odd reason that no one's allowed to question, because God forbid, questioning things is awful. Questioning things is awful. It makes you anti-Semitic. Just like questioning the COVID narrative is anti-science. So as Savvy Sabs points out, even Trump turns on Tucker Carlson for Israel. This shit is hilarious. And you can see Donald Trump. Someone please explain to Cookie Tucker Carlson that Iran cannot have a nuclear weapon. So MAGA is turning itself into this kind of civil war tension. And it's really a face-off moment for those to understand who's actually MAGA and what MAGA actually represents. Because I feel like there's two factions when MAGA first started. Is that there's people that are on the side of America, the hegemony, America keeping its, imperialistic power around the world, and will fold towards the war machine and pretend to candor to people saying, yeah, I'm anti-war, but at the same time, I'm willing to bomb said nation A, B, C, and D. I'm willing to do that because it keeps America afloat. It keeps the hegemony afloat. As opposed to Tucker Carlson, Candace Owens, Ian Carrol, even some say people like me, for example, when they say they want to make America great again, or make Canada great again, or Canada first, or America first, it's focusing on domestic policies. It's getting ourselves away from the foreign affairs nightmare that has put us in harm's way, that has made us worse, that makes our national security a complete utter joke and catastrophe, that they're willing to sacrifice us for the next war, and focusing on domestic policies. That's as simple as it gets. As simple as it gets. It makes the priorities of Americans or Canadians ahead of any other nation, including Israel. Including Israel. But it really is a mask-off moment for people like Laura Loomer, who's very much a Trump advocate, very much a said pro-MAGA enthusiast, but really it's exposing how deeply corrupted a person like her is. So she says, "Dear Tucker Carlson, I'm sorry. I'm sorry I don't have the opportunity today to tell you to fuck off to your face and call out for letting your mouth serve as a cock warmer for Arabs." As she's getting money from the Mossad, as she's getting money from AIPAC, as she's getting money from the rest of the deep state. She's promoting Palantir, for God's sakes, like it's an infomercial. She's definitely getting paid from the wrong people and far greater than what Tucker Carlson can even imagine of getting. And she's telling Tucker Carlson, because of that interview, that somehow he is serving and being a stooge for the Arab nations, because God forbid we question one single thing about Israel. God forbid. We're allowed to criticize anything. We're allowed to criticize the nation of Sweden. We're allowed to criticize the Australian government. We're allowed to criticize our own governments. But why not Israel? Why can't we question Israel? Why can't we mention that, hey, Israel is also capable of building nuclear weapons, and they have for a while, so maybe denuclearizing them would incentivize denuclearizing other nations. But you can't ask that, because God forbid asking that question is going to hurt the American hegemony that Laura Loomer is pushing. She's not pushing for Americans to get better. She's pushing for the interest of America to get better, meaning the hegemony, meaning the capital, meaning the war machine, which shows what a fraud she is. But it doesn't stop there, folks, because not only is she angry at Tucker Carlson and Candace Owens and Thomas Massey for, God forbid, focusing on how horrible this foreign affairs agenda is getting and focusing more on domestic policies, which is kind of the intent of MAGA. She goes on to Tim Pool's podcast here and states that we are witnessing a hostile takeover of the Trump administration. Laura Loomer explains why she is an anti-coalition building and thinks bad actors have infiltrated the MAGA base. So she's now stating that because Candace Owens, Thomas Massey, Tucker Carlson, people that thought Trump was going to be an anti-interventionist because that's what he campaigned on. He said he was going to wrap up the Ukraine war in 24 hours. He completely lied about that and completely lied about this. That now that Trump is being called out for his obvious lies to the nation, Laura Loomer is doing damage control, going on Tim Pool's podcast and say, oh, we can't allow people to be in MAGA if they're going to criticize the president, if they're going to criticize Israel, if they're going to criticize our foreign agenda. Oh my God. It really is like the Bush era chic moment right here. Like, oh my God, you're going to criticize George Bush? You're going to criticize American government? Even when they obviously lied to you right in front of your face? That doesn't take a rocket scientist or a mathematician to figure out. You can't criticize the government. So here is Laura Loomer going on to Tim Pool's podcast, frantically going full meltdown on the fact that MAGA has all these bad influencers, these bad actors that are looking at our foreign policy and maybe rethinking about Trump, maybe rethinking that Trump wasn't exactly the anti-interventionist people thought. Watch this.
The problem here is this is what happens when you have coalition building. And this is why it doesn't ever work. During the campaign, everybody was so gung-ho about, inviting people like Tulsi Gabbard and RFK into the party. And they said it was going to be great and that we needed to expand the tent. But the reality is, Tim, when you expand the tent, you have unrealistic expectations and you cater to people that have never really ideologically been aligned with the MAGA movement. And then those people come in.
The reason they wanted people like Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. is because people like RFK Jr. had a lot of insight when it came to the horribleness of our health and medicine and the food supply. And people wanted to take those policies and incorporate that into the Trump administration, making America healthy again, which is part of the coalition. That's what I thought people like Laura Loomer were supposed to be supporting. I thought you wanted America first. I thought you want America to be healthier. Same with Tulsi Gabbard. We thought that Tulsi Gabbard was supposed to be an anti-interventionist, being incorporated into national security, that maybe, just slightly maybe, they were going to, that she was going to able to execute plans to not put us in harm's way, that she's going to use the intelligence for good and not for evil. But of course, when you get incorporated into even MAGA, of all instances, especially under the wing of AIPAC, under the wing of Miriam Madelson, under the wing of Benjamin Netanyahu, those people eventually cave into the problem, into the system. So Tulsi Gabbard and RFK Jr. are doing the exact same as AOC, doing the exact same as Bernie Sanders. Yeah, they may say the right things that get people excited, but the minute you get into this political party, they fold, they cave. Why do you think they allowed Tulsi Gabbard to become director of national intelligence? Because they knew that they got her. Why do you think RFK Jr. was allowed to become the director of human health and services? Why do you think that was the case? Because they got to him. And now RFK Jr. is less focused on getting the harmful chemicals out of your food supply and worried about what medicines are being harmful to Americans, and more focused on the more deadlier disease of anti-Semitism. So it's not individual bad actors. It's the system that takes people, brings them in, and then baits them. Just like they did with AOC. AOC was this supposed to be tough girl from the Bronx that was supposed to shake things up. She was going to bring on the rumble. And then next thing you know, she gets into politics. She goes behind closed doors. She even announced this on her orientation day. She even announced just how horrendous the political system is. That they bring her in, they tell her what to do, they scold her when she's out of line or, God forbid, critiques the status quo, and they got her. They got her, they got Bernie Sanders, which is why the entire system is a flaw. Not individuals, the entire system is a flaw.
And they try to hijack the MAGA movement for what they want it to be, as opposed to supporting the man and the vision that is MAGA and America first. And so we're witnessing a hostile takeover of the Trump administration, in my opinion, by individuals in the Democrat Party who are now trying to LARP as MAGA, right? A lot of these people that are some of the biggest critics online, they came out of nowhere during the last campaign season. They have very astroturf social media followings. Some of these
They came out of nowhere. These people came out, really? You mean the people that were so harshly against the Biden administration, that's so obvious? People like Tucker Carlson even pointed that out, that he was harshly against the Biden administration. And a lot of people thought they had a chance with Donald Trump. That's what they voted for. They voted for the campaign promises, and it failed at every point in turn. Promises made, promises kept. What promises to America has he kept? Other than the fact that he's hauling you out to the shores for Netanyahu. He took this country, made it into a shell company, which is mostly what every other president has done for the last 20 years, and sold you out to the highest bidder. At this point, it's AIPAC. Beforehand, it was the military-industrial complex. It was NATO under Biden. They're one of the same. So it's not all the sun. It's not all the sun. There are people out there that can criticize both parties. They're not constricted to one side or the other. They're not tribal. Unlike this woman here. Unlike this, easy dupe.
People may or may not be being paid by foreign governments like Qatar, like Iran. We have seen that there are lobbyists that are now being paid, right? One of these lobbyists is a group called Luminate Advisors that is being paid to orchestrate interviews with the Prime Minister of Qatar and people like Tucker Carlson. So there's a lot of actual propaganda on behalf of Islamic regimes out there that is intended to undermine President Trump and his foreign policy. And I think it's important that we be honest about who's been here since the beginning, what President Trump's message has been since the beginning, and who's financing this opposition to Donald Trump.
I mean, just hearing that makes it sound like, it literally sounds like something you'd hear in a Scientology documentary. Like, this is when the higher-ups have to make the announcement of, there are insiders, there are agitators that are ruining this great organization, and we need to weed the herd. We need to go after these people. We need to keep this orchestration alive. I mean, literally, the whole purpose of MAGA, at least in my purview, the whole purpose of MAGA was to bring people together. It was supposed to be a coalition. That's why they incorporated people like RFK Jr. and Tulsi Gabbard, former Democrats, into Trump's base. That's why they incorporated, because it was supposed to be a coalition. It was supposed to bring people together. People voted for the ideas of RFK Jr. They voted for the idea that, hey, he was going to change, you know, the CDC and the FDA around. He was actually going to incorporate more healthier options. He was going to investigate the contamination of food and water and air and everything else. They thought that with Tulsi Gabbard. They thought that with Kash Patel. They thought that with Dan Bongino. And guess what? Once you get in, they got you. Now you serve them. Now you serve the masters. Like we saw with AOC, just like we see with Bernie Sanders. Once you're part of the club, you can't escape. You can't escape. They own you. Now you're a servant to them. Like they did with Laura Loomer here. Obviously, she's a servant to a higher power. She's not doing this on behest of actually giving a damn about Americans and actually representing what a MAGA party is. She's doing this on the behest of someone telling her that you have to attack people within this party, within the MAGA movement, because what they are saying hurts the hegemony or the discord of trying to build people up, trying to foment discord to bring people into this movement. That was a complete utter lie. That what they're doing is not America first. It's not bringing America together. It's making things worse. It's not helping grocery prices, and especially now with the war with Iran attacking not only nuclear sites but also oil facilities. What's that going to do for the price of gasoline? What's that going to do for the average person that has to drive around that's now going to realize that, oh, gasoline's up $7, $8 a gallon? How's that beneficial for America? How's that beneficial for the everyday American nuclear family that lives among the states, knowing that their tax dollars, knowing that their country got sold out to Israel, to advanced warfare that nobody wanted, that nobody asked for, and now the mask has fully been revealed to understand that Donald Trump, this whole entire time, the reason that he's allowed to be president, the reason that a game show host and a blabbermouth is able to become president is because he's a salesman, and they bought him out. They completely captured him. So here's also just some insight to show how easily they buy people, just like Laura Loomer here. This is from last year. This is from January 29th of last year. Says today, Nikki Haley went on CNBC and called for the U.S. to bomb Iran. Nikki Haley wants more war in the Middle East, which means more dead soldiers, U.S. soldiers. The only person who has proven that he won't create more wars is Donald Trump. Donald Trump is the pro-peace candidate. That was from last year. That was before Trump got elected. That was when he was running around doing his campaign promises, deliberately lying to people that he was going to be the anti-war candidate. And then all of a sudden, he got a blank check from Mira Matelson. All of a sudden, Make America Great Again became Make Israel Great Again. All of a sudden, he's dancing around on stage. He's applauding Zionists. He's hugging these malicious agitators, these bloodthirsty warhounds, and his message of peace and prosperity and focusing on domestic issues slowly fades away. And now, here's Laura Loomer just recently breaking. President Trump confirms the U.S. just bombed all 3 nuclear sites in Iran. He said all U.S. planes are now on their way home. Thank you, President Trump. So, Amazing how she went from, hey, I don't think we should be bombing Iran. I don't think that's good because we were promised to, stop these wars. All of a sudden, this war is okay. I guess I came around to realize that, I guess, agitating this country and leading us to World War III, there's some advantages to it. Like you get a paycheck from Palantir. Like you get a paycheck from other instigators that it paid your ass, obviously, to turn this around. And here is Laura Loomer again. This is on her show, which, funny enough, is called Laura Loomer Unleashed. Funny enough that she calls herself Unleashed, even though she is completely leashed up like a dog to serve the interests of the war machine, to serve the interests of the Israeli Mossad, to serve AIPAC, and to go after anyone that criticizes it, like a cult, like anyone that criticizes Scientology. Funny how very similar these things are. So, not only she goes after Tucker Carlson and Thomas Massie and Candace Owens, she goes after Tulsi Gabbard. Even though Tulsi Gabbard is willing to stay silent and fold right into this. So even when Tulsi Gabbard is also a betrayer, Tulsi Gabbard also got captured and got duped into this. Here's Laura Loomer saying, why is Tulsi Gabbard, a woman accused Trump of lying about Iran and pushed propaganda about nuclear war, in charge of intelligence? This is not about whether you like someone on a personal level or if you think they're a nice person. No, she doesn't want nuclear war. She stated she didn't want nuclear war, just like the rest of the country doesn't want nuclear war. But for her, because of how bought and duped she is, she wants nuclear war. She wants this aggression. She wants dead bodies. She has no principle. She has no principle. And unfortunately, so is Tulsi Gabbard. She has no principles either. Because if Tulsi Gabbard was really committed to what she stated back in the day, what people adored about her, and why we thought that maybe she would do something about the Trump administration, the mask has been off on her. That she was completely hollowed out, that the minute that she, lost her campaign in 2020 and started endorsing Joe Biden, that was a slippery slope. That was a slippery slope. So here's Laura Loomer now going after Tulsi Gabbard because Tulsi Gabbard isn't pro-war enough for this so-called anti-war peace candidate, Donald Trump. Listen to this.
Why should Tulsi Gabbard be included in these security briefings if the intelligence that she's giving the president and the intelligence that she's pushing out to the public is not accurate? Doesn't anybody find it bizarre that, the White House is on the same page with President Trump, Caroline Leavitt's on the same page with President Trump, Israel is on the same page with President Trump, but our own DNI director is getting it wrong?
I mean, do you hear what you're saying? Do you hear what you're saying? That, the Tulsi Gabbard is out of line. But I just stated that the president, the attorney general, everybody else in Trump's administration is all saying the exact same thing that came from Israel. Don't you find that suspicious? Doesn't that get through your head? You dumb idiot. You ignorant person. Doesn't that get through your head to understand that maybe Israel captured your politicians and that's why they're advancing warfare? That's why the peace candidacy completely fell short. That they've been captured by the Israeli regime to push more war. Again, for someone that calls himself Unleashed, wow, they're sure leashed like a dog. This is the right-wing equivalency of Chelsea Handler. Just absolutely no concept of time or space, but just keeps going on and on and on.
I mean, this is the problem with coalition building, and some decisions are going to need to be made. Maybe it was a mistake to make Tulsi Gabbard DNI director. Maybe she should have been in another position in the administration. Maybe it's not wise to have Democrats in charge of our intelligence agencies. Right? How are Democrats who have opposing foreign policy views to President Trump supposed to oversee intelligence in his administration? We have the tweet.
Really? The Democrats have opposing views on foreign policy. You mean the same Democrats that pressured Donald Trump to advance warfare, which is why they tried to impeach him? Those Democrats. The Democrats that also want to attack Iran, that also want to advance the war state, that want to advance NATO, that want to go to war with Russia. Like, I feel like every single day you're living in a Twilight Zone. You're living in a Twilight Zone episode because the people that are supposedly against the other side of the coin are part of the same goddamn coin. You're both pro-war. This is never going to end. It's never going to end. Because the duopoly, both Democrats and Republicans, are both on the side of horrendous foreign policy measures that gets us in countless wars. And the difference between the rest of it and someone like Tulsi Gabbard was we thought Tulsi Gabbard, being a combat veteran, being someone that critically analyzes the war, all the times that she was on Joe Rogan, she was the one that kept bringing up what was happening in Syria. She mentioned about Libya. She was the one that educated people like us to understand how outrageous these foreign affairs measures are. And then all of a sudden, she gets a little more comfortable. She starts, liking Joe Biden because her campaign, they try to attack her campaign. And then all of a sudden, she bends the knee to Joe Biden. She then bends the knee to Donald Trump. She gets this position. And now everything we knew about Tulsi Gabbard is gone. Her legacy is now completely evaporated because she fell to the political party. And now Laura Loomer is bitching about the fact that you're not in line. You're not in line. You got to be part of this cult. You got to think the way I do. If you don't think the way I do, you must be Arab bot. You must be a Qatari propagandist.
I don't know why stuff like this doesn't come up in vetting, right? Hey, Donald Trump being Saudi Arabia's bitch is not America first. Not a very nice thing to say about Trump. 2020, we do not seek regime change, Trump declares as he escalates his regime change war against Iran. So what are we supposed to do? Allow Iran to have a nuclear weapon? Is that what we're supposed to do? Are we supposed to allow for Iran to have a nuclear weapon?
Oh
I thought you just released a video without the president's permission saying that we got to make.
Hey, I don't know. Maybe you being an investigative journalist, Laura Loomer, your lippy ass bitch. Maybe you go investigate why they've been using this narrative for over 40 years. How for 40 years we've been told that Iran is close to a nuclear weapon, months away, days away, years away. At some point in time, they're going to build a nuclear weapon. Like, how mentally retarded these people have become. Mentally retarded these people have become. And what does this do for America? What does this do for America? It gets us further advancing into warfare, puts our national security even more at risk, just like the last 20 years of warfare, how well that turned out, how it made us safer, how we combat terrorism by building up more terrorism. That's just how wonderful that is, and puts us more at risk. How is this any of this America first? How is this America first whatsoever? And how's this going to cost Americans? These deadly attacks, the continuation of funding Israel's, attacks on Iran and all its supposed enemies. How is this going to cost Americans? How is this going to affect your economy? If America goes into war, which it's aligning itself to be, the economy is going to collapse. America's economy is going to collapse. You think people are going to be able to afford gasoline, gussing up their Hyundai so they can go to work, to go to pick up groceries? How do you think this is going to work? How do you think this is going to benefit America? It's utterly ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous what it's come down to. And all because, God forbid, Tucker Carlson, who once upon a time was a pro-war advocate because he was on mainstream media, but then saw the light, which goes to show you that once you get involved in these circles, once you get involved in these cults, that's just how your perspective changes, how your perception changes. that you get yourself involved in these groups, in these gangs, in these cults, and you start cheerleading for them. You think they're doing well because they give you this fancy studio. They allow you to be have your own show on whatever network or whatever outlet you're a part of. They get all this money, so obviously they're doing something right. Obviously I'm doing something right if I'm peddling this, mindless propaganda that I can easily look into, that I can easily investigate. Instead, I'm just calling out random people and making myself look like an embarrassment. Like, it is unbelievable, folks. It is unbelievable that someone like Laura Loomer and many more other people, just how diluted they are in the mess, how diluted they are from not understanding reality, not understanding the concept, not being self-aware of where they are, the situation that they're in right now, and just peddling a mindless conspiracy, a mindless rhetoric that we have heard time and time over and over again. Again, I don't know how old Laura Loomer is. I don't know her age and how long she's been doing this. It's not that hard to figure out. It's not that hard to figure out and do a quick Google search to understand that Iran does not have nuclear weapons. And if they did have nuclear weapons, we should be de-escalating tensions so that Iran and Israel and America and other nations don't result to nuclear weapons. And also look at the disasters of the last 40 years of foreign affairs with the United States. Even Donald Trump pointed that out in 2011 when it's Barack Obama. Now that he's in charge, now he's getting a paycheck from Israel, he's their little bitch. And you're being a little bitch for the deep state. You're not an agitator. You're not an unleashed. You're just a little sideshow. You're just a little bitch mocking other people for doing the conscious decision of pointing these flaws out and supporting the deep state that you pretend to go after.